Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Belanger. Up next, how the NFL is exposing the Ravens. Let's talk. When you look around the entire NFL, you see a lot of teams who appear to be on the come up. When you take a peek and think about the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Chiefs game last night, all signs pointed to a Kansas City Chiefs team winning that game. The Chiefs seemed to have everything clicking. Defense was playing pretty well. Offense was playing well. And they had a sizable lead. But lo and behold, the Jacksonville Jaguars stood up, punched back, and came back and won that game. And when you really think about it, the Jacksonville Jaguars, let's call them a startup, right? Because they've been down for a couple of seasons, even though they have a franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. No matter what you might think of him, he's been paid like a franchise quarterback, so that's what I'm going to call him. And they were drafted in the top 5, and they traded up and got Travis Hunter at the second overall pick. Now, whether Travis Hunter turns into a Pro Bowl level superstar type player, or he just stays a nice slot / X receiver at some point, the Jacksonville Jaguars seem to be on the rise. When you take a look at their wide receiver that they drafted last year, Brian Robinson the third, maybe, or maybe it's junior. Either way, man, a 6'4" guy who can run 4.3, who has a big catch radius. And so when you really look at it, the Jacksonville Jaguars have invested in their offense, basically 2 drafts straight. And they moved on from a couple of head coaches over the last couple of years. I think the coach they have right now is a rookie head coach. And they're playing well this year. Not excellent, not elite, but playing well. And that's one team that has kind of shed some light on how dysfunctional we are operating over in Baltimore. And the Jacksonville Jaguars still sit at the top of their division, tied with who else? Another upstart team in Indianapolis. Indianapolis and Jacksonville both are 4-1. They both are running the ball well, and their quarterbacks are playing well. Let's go to the Colts. Daniel Jones, nobody really expected him to lead this Colts team like he's been doing. But when you're well coached, when you have an offensive system that is working, when you have a run game that is working, and when you have a defense that can stay the course, right? Not shut teams down, not limit them to 15 points a game necessarily, but a defense that's willing to play, they can get off the field from time to time. That's how you end up at 0-4. You do what works well for you. And both of these teams who are in the AFC South, both of them have offensive lines that have been built and rebuilt and established over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And now you're seeing the results. And so that just kind of highlights, man, how we've been missing the mark over in Baltimore, where we didn't invest in the right positions and over-invested in other positions. When we keep going around the AFC in particular, let's go up to the East. You have the Buffalo Bills, who are still at 4-1. They just got beat by the New England Patriots. And it's not really a surprise that the Buffalo Bills got beat by the Patriots. In fact, I thought that the Buffalo Bills would go undefeated, but I have seen the Patriots play them tough over the last couple of seasons. And this Sunday, they took a victory from Buffalo. But Buffalo is still playing well. The quarterback is doing pretty well. The wide receivers are doing well. And again, the defense is the type of defense that just stays the course. A defense that can get off the field every now and then. A defense that can stand up against the run from series to series. And it has put these 3 teams at the top of their respective divisions. When you go to the New England Patriots, I think they're a team that could maybe catch 9-ish, 10 wins this season, maybe creep into the playoffs. They have a young, talented quarterback. They have an offensive line that is improving, and they have a defense that will play defense. And so what we're seeing is a thread happen across these teams, right? Nobody expected anything from Jacksonville. Nobody expected anything from the Colts. The Buffalo Bills are the Buffalo Bills, and then the Patriots seem like they may be the challenger Not for the division this year, it's too early. But over the next couple of seasons, the Patriots, their future may look pretty bright. Let's go to the AFC West before we talk about something that's thematic across those teams. The Chargers sit at the top of that division, and I don't remember what Denver's record is, but I know Denver is right there with the Chargers. Now, the Chargers have fallen on hard times over the last couple of weeks, but they're still playing pretty good ball. They do have some injuries that have popped up, but they're playing good offense. They're playing consistent defense. And when we jump over to Denver, they're doing the same exact thing, right? I believe it was Denver that just knocked off the Philadelphia Eagles this past week in a comeback victory. How did they do it? Good offense. They ran and threw it effective and consistent and on time. And then they played good defense, right? And so when you look at these teams in the AFC, wait a minute, I got one more team. I forgot about the North. When you look at the North, right? Okay, Baltimore, we already understand what that is. Cincinnati, injury to Joe Burrow, and Cleveland can't figure out what they're doing at quarterback. And so you understand why those teams are down. But why is Pittsburgh sitting at 4-1? Well, they added a quarterback who can keep them on schedule. They went out and added a big-time wide receiver who could help that quarterback out. And then they play consistent defense. And so when you go around all of the divisions, when you look at the upstarts, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, when you look at what the Patriots are trying to do, when you look at the Buffalo Bills, when you look at the Chargers and even the Broncos, what are some consistent things? All of these teams have had head coach changes over the last 5 or 6 seasons, some of them more recent. All of them have invested in their offensive lines. No matter who the running back is, they've invested in their offensive lines, and all of them play solid defense. And it has them at the top of their respective divisions, and some of them at the top of the AFC. And so I think that when you look at those examples, right, teams you didn't expect anything from, versus a team like the Ravens who had high expectations, right? You kind of see the difference. Coaching, execution, play in the trenches, and then health. And so it really explains what the separation is between the teams that are functional and the teams that are dysfunctional. But let's not stop with the AFC. Let's jump over to the NFC really quick. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're probably the best GM'd team in the league. So you understand why they are consistent. Now, their offense seems to be off track based on all the news reports and rumors coming out of Philadelphia. They may even make a flip with A.J. Brown for something else in the wide receiver category because he's kind of been disgruntled over there in Philadelphia for some time. But they still sit at the top of their division, and nobody's really close to them right now. And so why? Good offensive line play, good defensive line play, and the defense can get off the field. There's a consistent thing going around, and then you have to pay attention to how they constructed each of these rosters that I've spoke about, or these teams that I've spoke about. Let's go to the the NFC West. You have the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm pretty sure the Seahawks just lost, but the Rams have a offensive genius for a head coach. They got off some old contracts, which is something that I'm going to talk about in my next video when the bills come due. They built an offensive line with some young talent. They built a defensive line with some young talent. They added a Devontae Adams, got off of Cooper Kupp. And so you can kind of see what the theme is, right? Out with the old, in with some new, and let's keep moving along, right? And so they're going to be in the playoff race. They're going to be in competition for the top of their division. And we're going to see them this week. The San Francisco 49ers, all they do is win with whoever they put at quarterback. That's all they do is win. It didn't matter whether it was Jimmy G back in the day, if it was, what's that dude's name they got now? Brock Purdy now, or Mac Jones of recent because of injuries. Christian McCaffrey in, Christian McCaffrey out. they just win. They just plug you in at quarterback and keep moving. That just speaks to the level of intelligence and coaching acumen of Kyle Shanahan. The defense plays well, and they're going to be in competition for the division as well. And so you have to just really pay attention to how they draft, right? And how they develop their players and how they coach. It's a consistent thing. When we go up to the NFC North, you got Green Bay playing pretty well. And then you have the Detroit Lions, who we just saw a couple of weeks ago, who gave us that work. And so what is it about their franchises? Good coaching, good offensive lines, solid quarterback play. They have good talent on the perimeter. They don't beat themselves, and they have defense who can get off the field. And so both of them are going to be in it to the very end. Both of them. I think Detroit wins that division, but I think Green Bay will be in competition all the way to the very end of this season, barring any type of injuries. And then last but not least, you go down south to the NFC South, and you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is led by Baker Mayfield, who has revitalized his career, been in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. And again, good offensive line, solid quarterback play, run game, defensive line can stop the run, secondary can defend. Although they had a lot of points put up the last couple of weeks on them, they still have an ability to get off the field. And so the consistent theme, man, is the trenches, offensive and defensive trenches. Because your trenches offensively, the offensive line is going to impact how the quarterback plays, right? And then what you do up front, especially how you get out of the passer, that's going to impact how your back end or your secondary play. And so when you look at the teams that are 4-1 or at the top of their divisions or going to be competing all the way throughout the season, that's what you don't see in the Ravens. That's what you don't see. And so I think that what we are suffering from in Baltimore is unpaid bills. I'll explain that deeper in this evening's video. But we have a lot of unpaid bills, a lot of things that we've invested in, but we have got no return on. And so the Baltimore Ravens, holistically, they're a bottom 5 team. That's just what we are. Because we haven't spent time from the GM to the head coach building this team the way it's supposed to be built. Specifically on that offensive line, and then specifically defensively on the edge. You have to have edges who can get after the quarterback, and we don't have that. And when you look at our team, those are our two main problems. Regardless of what we have at tight end or wide receiver or Derrick Henry in the backfield, regardless of that, regardless of the big names on the back of the jersey, when you can't stop the rusher and when you can't rush the quarterback, you can't win in this league. And that's what is happening across all of those teams that I spoke about. That's the separator. And until we figure that out in Baltimore, until we get some real change, this is what we're going to have. So listen, stay tuned for my next video. I'm going to talk about how we really got here and what we can do to get out of this hole. I'm your guy, Belanger, and I'm out.